All right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's webcast. Today's webcast is going to be on D3 and maps. Visualize your data like never before in MicroStrategy 10. My name is Sam Liu. I'm a product marketing manager here at MicroStrategy, and just a little bit about myself first. I've been with the company for about, actually over 3 years now. I started out in technical support, ventured my way into consulting, and then now I'm here in marketing where I am truly having the most fun here in marketing. I get to learn about fascinating subjects such as D3 and maps, and I'm very grateful to be able to present to you on these interesting subjects to you today. So I hope you guys do enjoy today's webcast and learn a lot as well. One minor housekeeping item, there will be a live Q&A at the end of today's session. I'll answer the questions, and so if you do have a question, you can type your questions in the chat box on the bottom left. Only I will be able to see the questions, so you don't have to worry about anybody else seeing them. And I'll answer as many questions as possible. If I don't get to your question, I will answer them offline. So let's just go ahead and get started. So actually, before I get started, let me just quickly switch my slides. All right, before I get started, I actually just wanted to quickly talk about the power of visualizations. What we see here is a typical grid that I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with. Most come in a tabular format as seen here, and sometimes they come in a rare cross-tab format. But it doesn't really matter which format it comes in because it's very hard to make sense of this data, and especially if there's thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of rows in your data. The typical end user will really have no idea what's going on, and unless you specifically know what you're looking for, or maybe you're somewhat tech savvy and you can control F and find out what you're looking for. But even then, with a lot and amounts of data, it's going to be very hard to understand what's going on. So it's just a lot of numbers and letters to some of us. And unfortunately for a couple of us end users, we receive these grid reports and monthly, weekly, maybe even daily reports. But I bet some people actually listening on today's webcast are the ones that are actually sending out these reports. But if we were just to take this simple grid report and turn it into a very simple visualization, like a bar graph I have here on the right, I think it just makes it a lot more easier for our end users to understand what is going on. And the brain works in a very interesting and yet smart way where we can recognize sizes, shapes, and colors a lot more easier than a lot of numbers and text. And so just by looking at this visualization, we can instantly see that the longer the size, the more revenue it has. So for example, New York has the longest bar, so they're making in the most revenue, and if Sao Paulo has the shortest bar, so they have the smallest amount of revenue. And then we can look at color. The color is breaking down the channel. Each channel is a different color. We see that orange is the longest size, so it's bringing in the most money through the orange channel, which just happens to be web. So I hope the next time that anybody is about to send out a grid report, I really encourage them to next time just consider changing it into a simple visualization, because I really do believe that people can just gain insights, making insights a lot more quicker than just looking at a bar, instead of looking at a grid. So what's new in MicroStrategy 10? So because we're making all this noise on MicroStrategy 10 this year, I just thought it would be a good idea to start and talk about my 3 favorite MicroStrategy 10 features and how they relate to custom visualizations and how they relate to our maps. And I say custom visualizations here because there are many custom visualizations that we can integrate with, but I am going to focus on one specific custom visualization in today's webcast, which is going to be D3, because they are the most widely used and most popular custom visualizations out there. Now I know that there's many other MicroStrategy 10 features, but I just want to kind of focus on my 3 favorite here, which are, there's the new HTML5 user interface. We've stepped away from the Adobe Flash. During my consulting days, I still remember that there was 1 or 2 customers where Flash was a showstopper because they didn't have Flash installed, or their IT didn't allow them to install Flash, or they were on a previous version of Flash where it just didn't allow the customers to use Visual Insight. But so we've moved away from Flash, and we've rebuilt our software now completely on HTML5, which gives us a more sleeker, much more quicker user interface. I think a lot of our customers like the new look and feel, and it's just a lot more simpler to use. And actually, in fact, we all know that the iPads don't have Flash on them. If you really wanted to, you could use Visual Insight within MicroStrategy Web on your iPad if you really wanted to. It's not the most native experience because we do have a MicroStrategy mobile app, but it is possible because we did build it on HTML5, and HTML5 is a lot more integratable with a lot of other devices out there. We can also connect to a whole new slew of data sources. I think data is growing at an astronomical rate these days, especially in social media, especially with people my age, where we are on social media 24/7 all the time. There's just so many data coming out of social media, and we can now connect to a lot of these social media data sources, such as Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. And we can also still connect to our the regular relational databases. As long as you have a connector, we can pretty much connect to any data source out there. We also have a new native Hive connector within MicroStrategy 10, so if you wanted to connect to your Hadoop environments, you would be able to do that as well. And then, of course, my third favorite feature of MicroStrategy 10 is our data wrangling feature. This is exclusively new to MicroStrategy 10. You won't have this feature with anything else before 10. And what data wrangling does, it allows the end users to be able to cleanse their data, to parse their data on their own local machine without actually having to go to IT. And we know that having a successful analytics deployment, 95% of the time, it requires clean data. And so the data wrangling feature gives the power to the end user to be able to clean data by themselves on their own local machines, because if they do go to IT, we all know that IT is probably not going to clean the data for them, and you will probably not get anything back. But if you do get something back, it's probably going to come 6 months later, and by that time, you're not going to know what to do with it, or you're probably not even going to know what it's for. And and having clean data is very, very, very good for the for D3 visualizations and maps, because D3 and maps require a specific set of clean data to be able to visualize them. Especially maps. Maps needs good location data. We've also enhanced our third-party custom visualizations, including D3, with our new visualization builder, which I'm actually going to show off a little bit in a demo later in today's presentation. And then, of course, we also have our enhanced maps, and I'll also go over some of the new map features. So why do we need additional visualizations? So this isn't why do we need visualizations. I hope I answered that in the first slide, but this is why do we need more than just the MicroStrategy out-of-the-box visualizations? Why do we need more than just the line graph or the bar graph, or maybe even the advanced heat maps and network maps that MicroStrategy provides? Well, one is I think it allows people, you can get better insights into data. I think there's a lot of smart people out there in the world who visualize things a lot differently than everyone else, and if they can visualize it another way than just the out-of-the-box visualizations, then that would be great for them. And you also have an infinite amount of possibilities of visualizations that you can actually create now and visualize on because of the custom visualizations. The great thing about D3 visualizations is that it is all open source, and it does require a little bit of code. So as long as you can think of, to the wildest of your imaginations, as long as you can code it, as long as you can think of it, you can code it, and then you can build it, and then you can bring it into MicroStrategy. And because we have this new visualization builder that I will show later, we make it extremely easy now to integrate seamlessly within MicroStrategy. You can build everything, build your D3 visualizations within MicroStrategy, and then it's there for you to use right away. And then, of course, it's also lots of fun. We're going to see a lot of visualizations out there, custom visualizations that are flashy and they look cool and they move around. But I will say that there is a fine line between a cool-looking visualization versus something that's actually somewhat useful. I think you have to know who your target audience is. I'm a marketing person, so if I saw one of those cool visualizations on social media, that probably would be the best place to put it, because that's probably going to catch my eye. It's going to gain my attention, especially on Twitter, especially on Facebook. I'm more likely to click on a visualization that catches my eye, versus if I was to present something to executives or your managers, then I probably want to stick to a visualization that is more easier to understand and something that they can gain insights instantly without actually having to look at it and stare at it and try to figure out what's going on. So yet again, I will admit that there is a fine line between a visualization that is lots of fun and then also somewhat useful. So on my next slide, I actually have a visualization, and I want you guys to just think in your head, or maybe write in the question box whether or not you think this visualization is fun or useful. All right, so this is actually a funny story. We actually held a D3 visualization competition in our company. Unfortunately, this one did not win, but this is just something that you can build in D3 through through our visualization builder, which is, it's a lot of fun. I'm not sure exactly how this worked, but I think how it works is, the higher the number, the more revenue you have. It pairs you up with somewhat of that net worth. And for those of you who don't know, this is our CEO, Michael Saylor. So I think this is kind of fun. All right, so moving on. So because I'm talking about D3 and maps, I have broken them down into two different sections. I'm going to first start and talk about D3 visualizations. And then after I finish with D3, I'm going to talk about the maps. So what are D3 visualizations? So D3 stands for Data-Driven Documents. And what it is, it's a JavaScript library for you to create these very interactive, very dynamic visualizations. Like I mentioned before, it is open source. It does take a little bit of coding. And there are a lot of user communities out there, especially on the D3 website, which I'll have a link on to show you guys later, where I'd say maybe 95% of the code is already written for you on the D3 websites, and the D3 websites have thousands and thousands of visualizations. So it's not like you have to start from scratch. You can actually pull a visualization from the D3 website, make a couple changes, and I'll show you that through my demo today, and then bring it into MicroStrategy and be able to use the D3 visualizations right away. And it's also very simple for developers to create. Like I've mentioned before, we do have a new visualization builder, which makes it extremely easy for developers to create these D3 visualizations within MicroStrategy and to use right away. So here's the D3 website. If you go there today, you're going to see a lot of custom visualizations. And on each visualization you click on, there's going to be the code there for you to copy and then paste into MicroStrategy. And then you do have to make minor changes. Like I said, it's not going to be a pure copy and paste. I wish it was that simple, but it's not that simple. So you're going to have to make some changes. But like I said, it is completely open source. You can change the code however you want. You can add on your own features. You can remove some things. It's yours to own, really. I mean, this is more for our developers. If you are a non-developer or not interested into coding, we also have a GitHub site where we have a large repository of a pre-created, ready-to-go D3 visualization. So if you guys go to this website right now, actually, you're going to be able to see a lot of visualizations pre-created, and all you have to do is download them and then just put them into your plugins folder, and I'll show you how to do that through my demo as well. So this one, if you go to our GitHub site, this one requires no coding at all. It's just plug and play. So we kind of cater towards both the developers who want to develop their own through our visualization builder, and then we also cater towards the end user who doesn't want to code or doesn't know how to code and just wants to do something right away. And you can go to our GitHub site with these pre-created visualizations and then just plug them into MicroStrategy today, right now, if you really want to, and you'll be able to use them. So I actually have the two demos that I was talking about, and I'm going to show them right now. All right, so this is, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. This is MicroStrategy Web. And you can see on the bottom, on the left-hand side here, there's a visualization builder button there. So that doesn't come right out of the box within MicroStrategy, but it is free for all licensed paying customers. So if you do go to our developer zone, which you can find in our MicroStrategy community, you can download the plugin for this visualization builder. And then once you restart your web server, this visualization builder will be here for you guys to use today. So I'm going to go ahead and start by clicking on the visualization builder. So on the left-hand side is where I can actually put my code in, and then whatever I write on the left-hand side, I will be able to visualize on the right-hand side, just to make sure that I'm coding it correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the D3 website that I mentioned earlier with the thousands and thousands of visualizations, and I'm actually going to take a visualization from this website. So I'm going to just click on examples. Here's a bunch of visualizations that I can choose from. What I'm going to do is choose a box plot. So this is probably more of the very useful visualization. This is something that MicroStrategy does not have out of the box, but it's very common in all statistical analysis or statistical classes that you take out there. It's a box plot. It's very commonly used. I think a lot of people know what it is, but it's something that MicroStrategy does not have. And I think this would be something that's very useful to bring into MicroStrategy and also to show people within MicroStrategy. And like I also mentioned, the code there is already on the website for you. So 95% of it is done. Does require minor coding. So what I'm going to do here is just copy the first part of the code, and I'm going to bring it into MicroStrategy. That's the style part, and then I'm going to copy the actual source code. I'm going to paste it within the visualization builder again. Now each visualization is written probably by someone else, so the code is going to be a little bit different depending on which visualization you use. This code calls for a couple of libraries, and so we actually have to input these libraries into MicroStrategy, into the visualization builder, so that we can understand it. This one actually calls 2 libraries. Here's one library with the URL. The second one is hard-coded, so I'm going to find the URL. So I'm going to do some Chrome magic, get that URL. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it into the visualization builder. And the other options that we have within the visualization builder is the ability to make them available for reports, for dashboards, for documents. So you don't have to make them available for documents if you don't want to. You have the ability to select these options within your visualization builder. Now, like I said, it's not a pure copy and paste. There are a couple places where you do have to make minor changes to the code. And so, for example, this was calling a static CSV file. What I want to do is now actually go to our developer zone. And within our developer zone, we actually have a lot of documentation on how to create these D3 visualizations and a lot of resources to help you guys get started. So if you guys go to our community today and click on our developer zone, you'll be able to find all these resources to help you get started. So I'm going to create this visualization. There's also a lot of sample code. There's a lot of, like I said, documentation to help you get started. And so I'm going to pull the sample code from our developer zone, something that MicroStrategy can more easily understand. And I'm just going to paste it into the code. This one is calling a row type code, which is it's how MicroStrategy outputs its data in a tabular format. I also now want to just test it just to make sure that it works. So I'm just going to bring in a data file, drag in my objects just like you would with any other visualization. I'm going to drag in my attributes and drag in my metrics, and just like that, my visualization works and it's ready to use. I do want to stress again that this video was, I think, very oversimplified. It's more just for you guys to get started and understand the basics of how to use our visualization builder and what you can do with it. If I wanted to, I can change the size and shape of these of the bars and the lines, but I'm not going to here. So once you save it, it's going to show up in your plugins folder, and it's ready to be used right away. So if I go into my MicroStrategy web and bring in a data set, I'm going to drag on my objects just like I would with any other, and then select my visualization, and just like that, anybody within my MicroStrategy web, I guess anybody with the right permissions and privileges would be able to use this visualization right away. So yet again, I just want to say that this video was oversimplified. It's just for you guys to get started, just so you guys can quickly understand how to use the visualization builder. And I hope you guys try it, as soon as possible and start building visualizations. So now I have a second video that I want to show you guys. This one's a little more fun. It's just showing off different D3 visualizations. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is to start by bringing in a data set. These are all the new data sources that you can connect to. I'm going to bring in a data set here. Prepare my data. This is actually the data wrangling screen, but I'm not going to do any data wrangling because right here the data is perfect. And then so what I'm going to do first is actually create a line graph. It's the standard line graph that I'm sure all of you have seen before. It's the one that comes with MicroStrategy out of the box. And I'm just going to drag on my revenue and drag on my date. So basically what I'm seeing here is revenue over time. I'm sure all of you who've used MicroStrategy before, or really any analytics platform out there, it's just a very standard line graph. And so what I want to do actually now is actually change this line graph into different D3 visualizations. So I'm going to first go ahead and save this visualization. Actually, if you look on the right-hand side, you will see just the MicroStrategy out-of-the-box visualizations. There's no D3 visualizations yet. So I'm going to actually show you guys how to bring it into MicroStrategy. So I'm going to first save this visualization. And then I'm going to close out of it. And then so what I have on my left-hand side is, say, the visualizations that I downloaded from the GitHub site. They're not within MicroStrategy yet. And then on my right-hand side is my MicroStrategies folder. So I'm actually in Analytics Desktop right now. It also works in MicroStrategy Enterprise. It works in the web. It works on desktop. But I'm just going to demo through desktop right now. So I'm going to actually go and find the plugins folder within my Analytics Desktop. I'm going to copy and paste the visualizations I want to move over. I don't have to move over all the visualizations if I don't want to. I can just pick and choose the ones that I actually find most useful and move them into MicroStrategy. And that's all you have to do. Once you download the visualizations from our GitHub, or once you create the visualizations, move them into the plugins folder. And just like that, you'll be able to see and use them right away. So what I'm going to do is actually reopen desktop here. I'm going to find the same visualization that I created earlier. And if you look on the bottom left now, you're going to see 3 new additional visualizations, and those are the 3 that I put in. So I'm going to change my line graph into a calendar graph. So this calendar graph is also available on our GitHub. And it's just another way to visualize time data, or data revenue over time. We can see that each row here is by a year, each box is each individual day, and each big section is a month. So it's actually kind of easy to see, say, this date this year versus this date last year without actually having to scroll back and forth in a very long timeline. And also, just to prove that it works just like any other MicroStrategy visualization, I can drag and drop different objects on. Here I dragged on the cost metric. And just to further prove that D3 visualizations work just like any other MicroStrategy visualization, I'm going to create a derived metric. I took revenue minus cost. I'm going to create a profit metric. And then I'm going to, actually before I drag in my profit metric, I'm going to change it into a Google timeline. It's more of an advanced line graph. And I'm sure all of you who are familiar with Google Analytics or Google Stocks, this is a timeline that they use, and it's a lot more advanced than our typical timeline. I'm going to drag in my derived metric. It's going to change based on the metric I put in there. And it's neat because it has its own time selector at the bottom. You can filter by day, 5-day, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and so on. There's tooltips there, so if I hover over it, you'll be able to see the numbers, the values of it. So I think this one's really neat because it's more than just a timeline. It gives you a lot of other features and functionality of this within MicroStrategy. And this one is also available in our GitHub. So if you go to our GitHub, you'll be able to use this one right away. And then I have one more visualization that I just want to show you guys. This is a bubble chart. I'm going to drag on city, drag on profit, drag on channel, so we can see that here the size of the bubble is based on the profit, and then the color is based on the city and channel. And yet again, just to further prove that it works like any other visualization out there, I'm going to actually throw on filters. So I'm going to put in a date filter actually. And actually this is new in MicroStrategy 10, and I'm sure a lot of you are excited to see this. This is our new date filter within Visual Insight, and it's a lot more easier to choose dates now. For those of you who are familiar with MicroStrategy beforehand, pre-10, if you wanted to choose dates, it would either come in a long list of box charts or a time slider that didn't really make much sense. But now having a calendar to choose dates makes it a lot more easier for us to choose and filter dates. And as I choose dates, visualization spins and it changes colors. So that's the end of this video. I do want to quickly ask, what do you guys think of this visualization? Do you think it's useful, not so useful? I honestly think this visualization isn't that great. It's not that useful. It's actually kind of hard to understand because the colors and size don't really. Sometimes it's hard to understand what's what color and what's what size. But for some reason, I think there's a lot of people up here, and a lot of people here actually, especially like this visualization. But this is a type of visualization that I would say probably fits more in the social media space. If I saw this and I saw it spinning every time I filtered it, that's kind of neat. But I don't know if I would show this to any of my executives or to any of my managers because I think it's very hard to understand exactly what's going on. All right, so that's what I have on D3. I'm going to move on to the next section. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. All right, so this section will be on maps and geospatial visualizations. This is a very high-level overview of maps. All right, so just as I shown before, here's the same data set except now that it's transformed into a map visualization. I really do believe that maps is one of our most powerfulest visualizations out there. But I also do believe that it is one of our most underutilized visualizations as well. I think any company out there in the world that collects any type of data has some type of location data. If you're a retail company, you have location in stores, or you're tracking where your supplies are. If you're in healthcare, you have customer information, or you have location data on where your different hospitals are, and so on. So I think everyone collects some type of location data. And I think the next time that we see location data on some type of grid format, we should really consider turning it into a map visualization because it's just so much easier to view where things are. We can easily see things where they're in relationship with others. You can see the size of bubbles. The bigger the bubble, the bigger the number. The smaller the bubble, the smaller the number. So I think it's just we should utilize map visualizations a lot more next time. And if you do get a grid visualization with location data, I would strongly recommend changing it into some type of map. So what do you get within MicroStrategy? Well, one, you get free out-of-the-box Esri maps. Every license-paying customer will be able to get Esri maps for free. It does require for enterprise at least. For analytics desktop, it comes right out of the box. For enterprise, you will also get it for free, but it takes a little bit of setup. You do have to call in a technical support for a license key, and then you just plug the license key right into MicroStrategy. But then you'll be able to use it right away. So it is at no extra cost for you. You also get the free mobile mapping if you're on a iOS device, whether you're an Apple, iPhone, or iPad. You'll be able to utilize the Apple Maps. If you are on any Android devices, you'll be using Google Maps. And of course, we do partner with a lot of other third-party map partners out there. But the ones that I'm going to focus on is going to be Esri, Apple, or Google, because I think those are the most common ones. So one of the great things about MicroStrategies, and I think this is what puts us a little bit ahead of our competitors, is the ability to enrich our data, and especially enrich our geocoding capabilities. For example, say we have only city in our data set. No longer are we just tied down to just city. We can actually enrich it to a lot of other objects such as country, state, zip code, the longitude and latitude. We can now, with these enriching capabilities, we can now view data that was previously not in our data set, but we can also view data at a different level, which I think is very, very powerful. And it's not just, it isn't just the geocoding objects. We can do this for time. If you have a day, you can find a week automatically. You can find a year, a month, and so on. We also have multiple map styles to choose from. I'm sure all of our former our users of MicroStrategy on previous versions, no longer are we tied down to just the simple gray and dark gray map option. We actually have a lot of different styles to choose from now, so we can actually find a map style that actually fits into our dashboard and looks a lot better. We also have very many different map type options. You can have bubble pins, you can have bubble charts. If you create your own custom images, you can bring them into MicroStrategy to be displayed on a map. We have our density maps, and we also have this new map clustering on the bottom left here. You can see, for example, you see the giant bubbles in the clusters. That's not just one data point. That's showcasing a lot of data points within that one data point. But instead of showcasing maybe 1,000 data points all over the place, which kind of would make it look really, really messy, we're now able to just cluster them into different sections, giving it a much cleaner look, so that if you were to click on one of these cluster bubbles, then you would be able to drill down and filter down to those many, many thousands or many hundreds of different data points you have within that location. This is just another neat thing that you can do within maps within MicroStrategy. This is actually a hurricane path. If you have a lot of longitude or latitude data, you can actually track where things are going. It's, you don't have to use hurricane data if you don't want to. If you're tracking your suppliers, or you're tracking people, then if you have the location data, you can actually find out the exact path that they're moving on. So it's just another cool feature that we can do within MicroStrategy 10 and MicroStrategy and the maps within MicroStrategy. So one of our most popular maps features that MicroStrategy offers is the ability to integrate with also image layouts. So no longer do we have to just use what Esri or Apple or Google Maps gives us. The image layouts allows anybody really to create their own maps and then just bring them into MicroStrategy. So some popular image layouts that a lot of our customers use is something, for example, states within the USA. This can be things for like presidential elections to see which states are going blue, which ones are going red, or maybe if you want to go down to a different lower level, you can get counties within a state. And just like D3 visualizations, if you can create the image layout and you'll be able to bring it into MicroStrategy, so you're not just stuck with what our map partners give you. I mean, they give a lot, but they can't personalize maps for everyone out there. Another great example is, you can see on this slide on the right-hand side actually, is a store image layout. If you can track where your customers walk within a store and you can provide this store image layout and bring it into MicroStrategy, it's pretty powerful and useful in your way where you can see where traffic jams are, where people are walking, if there's any open walkways, or just basically understand where people are walking within your store, so you can create a much more fluid setup in your store. So I think image layouts is very powerful, and it's actually one of our more sought after features, and I would actually recommend a lot of people to try out image layouts if possible. And just to summarize, for our out-of-the-box maps features, we have the ability to geocode. We can enrich your data very, very much. We also have new map styles. We have different marker types, including clustering. And now just a summary and takeaway from all of today's presentation. D3 and Maps really just provides you new exciting ways to discover insights. You don't have to just use the visualizations that MicroStrategy gives you. You can actually create your own and then bring them into MicroStrategy. It's free for all MicroStrategy license-paying customers, and it's also available on desktop, web, or mobile. And here are the additional resources that I would actually like to point you guys to. We do have our developer zone. This is more for developers who actually want to create their own visualizations. You can go to this link right here. It's also found in our community, so if you go to our community website, you can click on our developer zone. It would be under the visualization SDK there. Within there, you're going to find a lot of sample code, a lot of documentation, a lot of just examples on how you can get started on building your own custom visualizations. And then on the right-hand side is for our end users who are probably not going to want to code or don't know how to code. If you go to this GitHub site right now, you can actually go and find a lot of pre-created visualizations that don't require any coding. You can just download and then just plug them into MicroStrategy, and they're going to start working right away, just like I showed during today's demo. And I also just want to give a heads up to you guys out there. It's not officially posted yet, but I would keep checking back on our community. We're actually going to have a D3 visualization competition open to the public, where you can win some prizes, where you can submit and show off the D3 visualizations that you have created. But it's not posted on the community yet, but I would check back in the next coming weeks and look out for that, because I think that's going to be really exciting, and I'm actually really excited to see what other people out there are creating as well. So thank you, and I'll actually leave it on this page in case anyone needs to copy down the links. But I'm going to actually start answering some questions now. The visualization builder is only currently available for MicroStrategy 10. I know for all of us out there who have tried to create visualizations pre-10, it was a difficult process, but I do encourage you actually to upgrade to 10 so you can not just experience the visualization builder, but also all of the other features out there that MicroStrategy 10 has to offer. Someone was asking where to find the visualization builder. You can actually find that on our developer zone within the community. And I think there's a Get Started tab, and you can click on that, and you can download the plugin and then bring it into MicroStrategy. So I would start at the community and the developer zone and click on the Visualization SDK button. Is D3 possible in mobile? So that's a question that we actually get very, very often. It is possible, but it does require additional coding that I did not show here. So if you are interested in finding out how to get D3 visualizations working on mobile, I would probably consult our technical support or professional services. It does take a little bit of coding. I will say that it's not the easiest thing, and I know that we are trying to figure out ways to improve it. So it is possible. It just takes a little more work. Does this work for the desktop version? Yes, this also works for the desktop version. The demo I showed was in desktop. It also works in our enterprise. It works in web. It works in desktop. So it works in both places. A lot of questions on documentation and tutorials. I would definitely start in our community. Definitely start in our developer zone. Click on the visualization SDK. There's a lot of documentation there and a lot of sample code also just to help you get started. And it's not just Visual Insight that you can have D3 visualizations in. You can also make them available for documents. So if you're creating a pixel perfect document or advanced template, you would be able to bring in D3 visualizations as well. So each visualization out there, like I said, it's really dependent on the code or the person that writes it. So there's a lot of properties per visualizations that may be specific for one visualization and not another visualization. So if you make that, so say if you want the ability to give the user the ability to make the lines thicker or thinner, you'd have to build that into your D3 code, and so that MicroStrategy can recognize it, so that the end user would be able to change it within the properties section within Visual Insight. So it's all dependent on the code that you write for the D3 visualization. I'm glad that a lot of you like the date filter. I think that was a huge improvement of what we had beforehand. Can I create my own counties defined in the territories of the MicroStrategy 10? So you can really create anything you want as long as you provide the right specifics to that visualization. We only come out with the out of the box, the map visualizations that Esri gives or Google gives or Apple gives. But if you want to create your own image layout with its own counties or territories defined, you can do that, bring them into MicroStrategy, and it'll work. So whatever you can think of, as long as you can build it and integrate within MicroStrategy, you'll be able to view it in MicroStrategy. For the D3 website, I think a lot of you are trying to figure out how to download them. Here, I'll actually share my screen real quick. So this is the GitHub site where we have our pre-created visualizations. If you click on the visualizations plugin here, and you can actually see all the visualizations that we've added on. It's continuously updated. Our engineers are updating it, every so often. Actually, very, very frequently. You can see this one is actually updated a day ago. But we're continuously trying to add more and more. And if you click on each individual one, you can actually see, what it looks like, and just to give you an idea of whether or not you actually want to use this visualization. How to download it? Click the download zip file here. You're going to download each individual D3 plugin. And like I said, you don't have to bring them all into MicroStrategy. If you don't want to, you can just pick and choose the ones you want to bring in. All right, let's see. All right, I'm just still reading through the questions. Can D3 visualizations be exported into PDF or Excel? Right now, it's a little difficult. So we don't have that functionality right now to be able to do that. Can all the examples that I demoed today, are they available? Yes, they're available. If you go to our GitHub, you'll be able to find them. Especially, I would check out the Google timeline. I think that one is probably the most, in my mind, the most impressive visualization that I showed today. Are they reusable? Yes, I think these D3 visualizations, you can make them available for all your users to use on any dashboard, on any document that you want. Are there any D3 files in GitHub confirmed with no issues or bugs? I think we continuously monitor our visualizations in GitHub, and you see even things like the Google timeline was just updated a day ago. If we do find a bug, if we do find anything wrong with it, we will fix it, and then we're just going to post a better, newer one up on the GitHub. But I think the ones right now are working perfectly fine. The ones working online are the ones posted on our GitHub are the ones I downloaded for my demo. So I think they're working fine. If I send a link, a visualization link to someone and he does not have it installed on his platform, is it going to work? So if you are on Analytics Desktop, and if you want to send a .mstr file to someone, they would also need to have that D3 plugins on their own local machine to be able to view that visualization. Now, if you're within the same department running off the same iServer and running it off MicroStrategy Web, then you won't have to worry about anything. The IT person would have to just plug it into the MicroStrategy web server. But if you were to do it on Analytics Desktop and you want to share a dashboard with D3 visualizations on, you would have to make sure that whoever you're sharing it to would also need that D3 plugins in their plugins folder. All right, so I think that's all the questions that I'm going to answer for right now. I see that there are a lot more questions, and I will try to answer as many as I can offline. Hopefully this week, maybe by next week, but I will answer these questions and email them to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's session and learned a lot. I definitely had a lot of fun, so thank you.